Gary Ratner, Citizens for Effective Schools. Dr. Smith, I was very pleased to hear your comments about some reforms that have been initiated in Arkansas. You mentioned that too often minority students are allocated to classes that are below grade level curriculum, and often that these kind of assignments to, in effect, tracks go on for very extended periods. And I believe you said that, at least in your own opinion, there should no longer be two tracks in education. There should only be one track, presumably at least at grade level. Of course, there could be AP courses above that, but at grade level. So my question is Arkansas considering abolishing the low-level tracks for virtually all students to ensure that virtually all students would be getting a rigorous education and taking the steps to be sure that the teachers have the knowledge and the pedagogical skills to be able to effectively teach all students at that level. There's a profound need for that kind of shift throughout the country, I believe, and I'm just wondering, given your own views, where is Arkansas on that?
Let me tell you where Arkansas is. Arkansas has established something that we call SMART Core. And SMART Core is the recommended curriculum that college preparatory organizations have recommended that all kids take. And we have been in the process of notifying folks for the last 4 years that by next year, every child would be required to participate in the SMART Core curriculum. Up to now, they could opt out and take some other things. But this coming year, every child will have full access to a rigorous curriculum. They cannot operate inside two different worlds. And if I could coin something that Langston Hughes said in his poem, Mother to Son, and he said, well, son, I tell you, life for me ain't been no crystal stair. As long as you have kids operating in two different worlds and preparing them for worlds that no longer exist, then we cannot close this achievement gap. And so to eliminate, yes, I think that all low-level, dumbed-down classes should be completely abolished under No Child Left Behind, and that you should put into professional development monies to teach teachers, administrators, building the capacity to turn around performance. In Arkansas, yes, our data set said that we needed to do just that. So we do not have a differentiated diploma, one diploma. Every kid is expected to do these things, and they've been on notice for 4 years as we work through preparing teachers and parents and the community for what real rigor involves. Thank you.
Before we come to you, Nathan, let me just ask our other two panelists if they'd like to comment on this, obviously outside of Arkansas, but the notion of abolishing what Dr. Smith referred to as dumbed-down classes and increasing the rigor of classes. Did any of you want to comment any further on that? No?
Yeah, I think I'll just say one thing is that for our students, actually, for school districts that really do have a lot of our population, we do see tracking of them, in particular because they're English language learners put into classes that actually people assume they are better fit for instead of really assessing where the child is. And our goal is really to make sure that it isn't about a particular type of class, about a holistic program that allows parents to make good choices and students to make good choices. And we are in support of students being in classes that really challenge their ability to grow. And in particular, for our students, really looking at English language learners as students who have a right to be in AP classes just like everyone else does. So.
Good morning, Michael. Nathan Saunders, General Vice President of Washington Teachers Union here in Washington, D.C. I've got two questions or points that I'd like to get some response to. And first of all, most educational professionals support data analysis, and I think that's very important to note. Unfortunately, critical data pertaining to education, which needs to be analyzed, is not even taken into consideration. And that data that I'm talking about is unfortunately spoken to passively. And it's data that pertains to poverty of children, housing conditions, and health care. if you look at even your piece this morning, you speak about children of color, which is very important, but what we know from education standpoint is that the children of color who are not getting the education they need are oftentimes individuals who find themselves living in conditions of poverty. We also know that there are individuals who have health care and housing issues that they bring to the classroom. Most people don't know, right here in Washington, D.C., 1 out of every 3 children in the District of Columbia are living in a state of poverty in the nation's capital. That impacts education outcomes. And I think it's an issue that really needs to be considered in kind in regard to data analysis, because it needs to be juxtaposed in that regard. My second point and question deals with an issue of cognitive analysis, which really, this data, if you will, this data revolution started about 1920s in this country. And it's really a question of whether or not the data collection is reinforcing stereotypes that we already have of children. All we're doing is mathematically showing what we already believe about them and their capabilities. And so I think that is very important. Certainly data ought to be used by local school districts for audit purposes and inspection purposes. But unfortunately in this country and with the current legislation, data is being used punitively against teachers and against particularly the public school system. So I would like to get some comment on those two, please.
First and foremost, I want to say that when you use data, data should be used to improve the process, not to penalize and in punitive measures. Any accountability system that's based on punitive measures ultimately fails.
Absolutely.
So the data, for example, for teachers, to show them their strengths, their weaknesses, their strengths in that classroom, serves only to help improve the performance of that particular teacher. Now, that should not be used in the teacher's evaluation, but in the evaluation of the program outcome. Those are two different things. And I think when we get to that level of specificity and that level, because, you know, in our first wave of accountability, everything that we use data for sometimes was for punitive things. However, in this next wave, the most important thing is the reform of education in this country. We can no longer continue to sort and select. It is time for us to make a difference with our kids. We now have the capacity to do it, and it's, you know, we may not ever get another chance. So we must move forward with this. I agree with you. It shouldn't be punitive, and that we are new at this game, but we can get a lot better at it with teachers' help around the table, because once these things are analyzed and best instructional practices go forth in data analysis, who better to help with that than teachers? So I welcome the idea that it shouldn't be punitive and that we should move forward in using it to transform education in America.